Mount Vernon United Methodist Church, history is just magnificent. I am Pauline Ransom. I came to this church when I was 27 years old. Today, I'm 87. Reuben Hurd was the head of our family, and our family decided to come to Mount Vernon. This church has a rich history. The history began many years ago with our family. Our children were raised in this church. They were married in this church, and their children are in attendance at this church today. And we are active in the church. We're just not bench warmers. We are active. I have been active in the choir for many years. I came to Mount Vernon as a soloist and a concert artist, and I have done concerts in the church. As a matter of fact, a concert to raise this fabulous baby grand piano. When I came to this church, I did concerts under the direction of Mrs. Hazel Anderson, who was my accompanist. Not only did Mrs. Anderson accompany me, but also Maestro Kenneth Claiborne and our very own Mrs. Mary Ella Nathan Davis, who was one of our musicians of the church. Now, we have had many giant professional musicians to come through Mount Vernon, such as Henry Lala Wilson, who was one of the persons with the Crusaders, and Joe Sample. Now, not only did he come, but we have had opera singers in our church. We have had theatrical performances in our church, and the great and mighty Ann Lundy, who is a great musician and director. Also, we had Joe Camuch. Not only Joe Camuch has been here, but we also had Gerald Calhoun, Kyle Turner. We've had some greats in our church. And not only did we go from opera to hip-hop, but we have had hip-hop artists in the church also. And an international artist, Corey Stute. We've had some great history in Mount Vernon United Methodist Church. I remember when Lowndes Avenue was just flourishing with businesses and people. The Deluxe Theater, and my goodness, there was a club on Lowndes Avenue that every entertainer came to Houston to perform at that club, and it was called the Matinee. There's a lot of history about that business also. Now, I remember walking to church. We didn't have a car, so we walked to church. As a matter of fact, we walked everywhere. We walked to Phyllis Wheatley High School, but when we finally got a car, that was great. But I walked from Gregg Street. There was no East Texas Freeway then. I walked to church, and no one bothered me. Today, it's amazing at all of the things that's going on, but no one bothered me. I walked to Sunday school. I belonged to another church, Pleasant Grove Baptist Church, but I walked to church. And it was just a great experience being in Fifth Ward for me. I really didn't know I was poor until politicians were saying certain areas was poor. I didn't know I was poor. I had everything. My family always provided for me. My grandparents were great. And They lived right on the East Tex Freeway, and on Sundays we went over for dinner. Now, nobody goes for dinner. Everybody wants to go out. No one sits and talks about the history of the churches, the history of the family. Everybody want to go out and eat. Now, I want to give you a little background on the political umbrella. Believe it or not, Congresswoman Barbara Jordan came through Mount Vernon. Many of the politicians wanted to get endorsed, so they came to Mount Vernon. Now, Congresswoman Barbara Jordan came, and her campaign manager was Mr. Nelson, who was a member of this church. I tell you, we are proud of every person that have come to this church. I say to you today, believe it or not, we are a church on the move. And if you want to really worship and praise, I ask you to come to Mount Vernon under the leadership of our pastor, Pastor Herb Addison. We are a church of love. Have a wonderful day.